you can only be as accurate as your least accurate measurement. So when you're multiplying and dividing, you're going to put your answer in the same number of significant figures as the least precise measurement. So 1.34 times 0.04. If you were to type that in the calculator, you would get 0.0536. This number has 3 sig figs. This number has 1 sig fig. Of those two, 1 sig fig is the least precise measurement, so I need to round my answer to just 1 sig fig. That 0 is a placeholder, that 0 is a placeholder, that's my first sig fig. So I look, that's a 3, the 3 does not round to 5 up, so my answer rounded is simply 0.05. Here we have 4 practice problems. Go ahead and try number 1 and number 2 on your own. Restart when you finish number 1 and 2. Hold off on 3 and 4. So number 1, when you type that in the calculator, you get 1.3888 and then some more numbers. I have 3 sig figs. I have 2 sig figs. So my final answer needs to be in 2 sig figs. That's 1, 2. This is my second one. I look, and an 8 is going to round that 3 up. So that turns into 1.4. For number 2, I'm going to plug all of that into the calculator. I had 3 sig figs. I had 4 sig figs. I have 4 sig figs. So my least number is 3. You don't have to write all the numbers from the calculator, but for these practice, I'm going to go ahead and write more sig figs than I need to begin with, just so you can see where the rounding occurs. I would suggest doing that on your homework too, so if you have a question and you thought you were correct, we can easily see, was it a rounding issue, or did you think you had maybe 4 sig figs in all the numbers and that's where you're messing up? It's easier to see without having to retype everything in the calculator. So I need 3 sig figs, so that's 1, 2, 3. That 6 is going to stay a 6 because that 2 doesn't round it up. Therefore, your answer should have just been 2.06. All right, 3 and 4, the numbers are in scientific notation. So I've got this number, which has 2 sig figs, and I've got this number, which has 3 sig figs. So I know in my answer, I'm going to want to have 2 sig figs. But the problem is plugging that in the calculator. So there's 2 ways you can do it. One, if you purchase the calculator that we recommended, which would be this one, then go to pull this calculator out and we'll go over it. If you have your graphing calculator from TI, the graphing calculators are going to be the exact same keystrokes as what we're going to do on this calculator. And if you're purchasing a calculator, this is the one that we recommend. They have it at Staples, Office Depot, pretty much any of your online sources. It runs around $10. So if you're paying much more than $10, I would look elsewhere. If you don't have this calculator available, or your graphing calculator, then I would suggest Googling calculator. So just in the search, type Google calculator. And you should get a calculator that looks like this one. So this is the one that we're going to use first. So looking at the number, it says 5.8 times 10 to the 9th. To plug that in, I'm going to do 5.8. For the times and the 10, I'm going to hit this exponent. That E, notice it's capital, stands for times and 10. So times 10 to the 9th. So 5.8 times 10 to the 9th. That was this. Now I want to divide. So divided by 8.40 times 10 to the 4th. So 8.40 times 10 to the 4th. I hit enter, and I get this large number here. Remember that we said that we wanted our answer in 2 sig figs. So 1, 2, that 9. Notice the 9's not going to round up because there's a 0 after it. So I get 6, 9, and then I've got to keep these. So 6, 9, 0, 0, 0. So 6, 9, 0, 0, 0. Or we could technically put that in scientific notation. Since both of these numbers are in scientific notation, it is better practice to put your answer in scientific notation as well. And that'd be to the 1, 2, 3, 4. So either of those would be correct. When you're typing this into Go Formative, if I typed scientific notation into Go Formative, then you're going to use that same E button. So I would do 6.9 E to the 4. Don't write 6.9 E4, write it like this on your paper. But again, if you're using Go Formative, this E is the same E that we're going to use on that. If you're using the calculator, let's see how to do that. So using this calculator, we would hit our 5.8. Then we need times 10 to the 9th. So just like on the online calculator, we need that E. To get the E on a graphing calculator or a calculator like this, we're going to hit second. And then right above the 7 is this EE. Notice that did 5.8E, and now we're going to put our exponent 9. Do not put a times, do not put a 10, just like the online calculator. So all of this number right now is 5.8 times 10 to the 9th. Now I'm going to hit divide. 8.40 times 10 to the 4th. So second, and the little x to the negative 1, which gives me that EE. If you're on a graphing calculator, it's second comma, but it's right above the 7, regardless of what calculator you have. And then to the 4th. So 8.4 times 10 to the 4th. I hit enter. Notice it gives me that same number that I had in the online calculator. 690,476 point, and some more numbers. Then I would just round that to the correct number of significant figures. Okay, and now let's look at the last problem. So this one had 3 sig figs. This one has 3 sig figs. So our answer we know is going to have 3 sig figs. Okay, so plugging this into the calculator, online we have negative 8.99 times 10 to the negative 3rd. So on our online calculator, it's a little basic. We're going to use the subtraction sign as our negative. So negative 8.99 times 10 to the negative 3rd. Then I'm multiplying times 5.55 times 10 to the negative 6th. So times 5.55 times 10 to the negative 6. Hit enter. So I needed 3 sig figs. So on my answer, I have 1, 2, 3. That 8 is going to round up. So I got negative 4.99. Always look over on this right-hand side. Don't forget the times 10 to the negative 8. So negative 4.99 times 10 to the negative 8. If it gives you it in scientific notation, then don't expand it and start putting all of our negatives or all of our zeros in front. Just leave it like this. Okay, finally, let's see how to do it on the calculator. This one's a little bit different than the online calculator because unlike the online calculator, we actually have a negative button down here. So I'm going to hit negative 8.99. I need my times to the negative 3rd, so second E, negative 3. Make sure you're using the negative and not the subtraction sign. I'm going to multiply that by 5.55 times 10 to the negative 6th. Hit enter. And in this case, I get negative 0.000, and I get a whole lot of zeros and then a 5. So the online calculator, we had more places out, so it went negative 4.99 times 10 to the negative 8th. In this calculator, we're going to go -5, but we still need 3 sig figs, so 0.00 times 10 to the -8th. So depending on what calculator you used, you may get slightly different answers. Both of these would be accepted.